Messiah filled the galaxy with mysteries so that we might learn from them, coming step by step closer to his perfect being. To ignore them, even in the face of war, is heresy. The Imperium of Man would be unable to function without great leaders at its helm, commanding armies, factorums, societies, and organizations throughout the stars. For a soldier cannot march without food, nor fight without commands, nor smite the enemies of humanity without weapons by their side. And whilst it is true that many leaders are not without controversy, many are nonetheless integral to the continued function of the Imperium of Man. None more so than the Archmagos Dominus of the Adeptus Mechanicus, Belisarius Cawl. Serving the Imperium for millennia, Cawl's origins have been lost to time, not least due in part to his memory being erased twice within his lifetime, keeping his origins a secret, even to himself. The first known records of Belisarius date back to the age of the 31st millennium, with his homeworld confirmed to be that of the planet of Mars. Born within the facilities of Xanth Terra, belonging to the Magos Biologus Hammurath. That born alike to many of his kin, Belisarius would bear the remarkable trait of being able to speak immediately from birth, derived from his ability to absorb and inload data whilst gestating within his vat. Ascending to the rank of Tech Acolyte during the Horus Heresy on the world of Trisolian A4, Cawl would be trained by Magos Domina Hester Aspertia Sigma Sigma. A master of cloning and soul merging, Hester would teach Belisarius the now forgotten to time arts, to which he would become the only surviving practitioner. As time passed under his tutelage of the Domina, Belisarius's ideals would clash with those of the Mechanicum. Whilst maintaining that the Emperor of Mankind was indeed the All-Messiah, Cawl strongly disagreed with the Adepts of Mars dogma, believing that the Mechanicum should innovate rather than simply conserve the technologies of the machine god. Convicted of his belief that the human form bore greater worth than cybernetic modifications, seeing them as tools to enhance the flesh rather than the inverse mantra of the weakness that lied within. In secret, the young tech priest would perform illegal surgeries on his brain to increase his intelligence. Surgeries that would prove beneficial to his continued survival with the betrayal of the traitor legions. Within the Trisolian system, Horus Lupercal would assault the Mechanicum. Belisarius's master, Hester Aspertia Sigma Sigma, would defect to the traitor forces. Disgusted by her actions, Cawl would feign loyalty to Horus Lupercal. With the aid of his friend, Friedrich Adam Ship Quo, Belisarius would kill Aspertia, and with the aid of the Space Wolves Legion under the command of Primarch Leman Russ, escape the Trisolian system. Prior to his escape, absorbing his former master's intelligence core and accumulating the knowledge needed to master the arts of cloning. Escaping to Holy Terra, Cawl and Friedrich would be further mentored by Ezekiel Sedain. Sedain, intending to claim Belisarius' master of cloning and soul merging, would threaten to kill Friedrich in order to fulfill his goal of immortal life in service to the Emperor. Merging his mind with Cawl's body, Sedain's personality would be overpowered by Belisarius and subsequently be assimilated by Cawl. Inheriting Sedain's memories, Cawl would see the Emperor within his mind, a meeting between Sedain and the Master of Mankind during the age of the Unification Wars. The Emperor spoke directly to Belisarius in that memory, foreseeing his eventual assimilation of Sedain. The Emperor of Mankind would command Belisarius to continue his great works, somewhat cryptically stating that he should continue these works, even should they be at odds with the Emperor's fate. Shocked at this revelation, Belisarius would be horrified at the prospect of betraying his Emperor, yet would resolve in the All-Messiah's eternal wisdom, despite not knowing the extent of his meaning. With the end of the Horus Heresy and the interring of the Emperor upon the Golden Throne, Belisarius Cawl would be commanded by Primarch Brute Guilliman to conduct two tasks of paramount importance. Contingencies set to account for the fall of the Primarch of the Ultramarines and the dark days ahead of the Imperium. First, Belisarius would ensure the resurrection of Guilliman should he fall in battle. Second, he would create a new breed of Adeptus Astartes and armaments. A new blade against the fell powers of chaos when humanity's light might flicker ever closer to being extinguished. The Primaris Project of Space Marines. Utilizing the Sang Primus Portum, the genetic materials of all 20 Primarchs, Belisarius would create a new breed of Adeptus Astartes. The Primaris were faster, stronger, and more robust than their first founding progenitors. Their lack of experience countered by their vast improvements to their physical and mental faculties. 10 millennia of work bringing forth a new age of the Imperium in the wake of its crushing defeats at the fall of Cadia and Abaddon the Despoiler's 13th Black Crusade. The Age of the Avenging Sun, the Primaris, and the Indomitus Crusade, Noctis Aeterna. Yet to fulfill such a grand undertaking, Belisarius would be changed tremendously over the 10,000 years of his great work. Incorporating more entities within himself and his intelligence core, Khorne would transform into a being more alike to a legion of many rather than an individual. A meshing of souls bolstering his peerless mind, from Ezekiel Sedain to Hester Aspertia to untold others incorporated into his mind. Such was the strain upon his memory that he would delete portions of it every 500 years in order to ensure his sanity and mental stability. With the revival of the Primarch of the 13th Legion and the deployment of the Primaris Space Marines, many both within the Mechanicus and wider Imperium would regard Belisarius with contempt and suspicion, with many of the Adepts of Mars regarding his works as heretical and beyond the bounds of the Omnissiah's will. Despite his kin and even Lord Commander Guilliman's misgivings, Belisarius would venture forth into the galaxy to fulfill his duty to the Emperor. Making brief alliances with Xenos such as Strazin the Infinite and Eldred Ulfrain in order to understand better their artifacts and technologies that might better aid his Imperium. The last known records of Belisarius' endeavors to protect humanity, chronicling his venture to the homeworld of the Scythes of the Emperor, Sofa, bastion of the long-dormant Pharos device. Now reactivated, Belisarius would study the device, gleaning information of blackstone deposits throughout the galaxy. Yet within the device, a long-imprisoned being powered the Pharos, a godlike creature known as a Catan. Named Zahulash, the restrained Catan would beseech Belisarius to free it from its bondage, in exchange of removing the heart of the Pharos device. Agreeing to its terms, Belisarius would release the being from within. Zahulash, like all Xenos, would retract its offer and attempt to betray the Archmagos, a decision the foul Xenos would regret. The humanoid form of Zahulash was gone. In its stead blazed an orb of light. It touched Khorne and Primus, and they felt their souls shrivel.
"You are trying to betray us,"
yelled Zahulash. "Yes," said Khorne, working feverishly over the alien console.
"Disappointing. You have promise,"
said the ball of light.
"but expected. You will have nothing. You will die."
Khorne laughed. "I already have all I desire. I've unloaded it. All of it. The problem with entities like you is that you always leave the details to lesser beings. The secrets of the mountain are mine." He depressed the final glyph. A discordant chime sounded, and the console winked off. "You shall never be free." A lash of starlight whipped across the space between them. Khorne's conversion field flashed brightly.
"We will destroy you 1,000 times over."
"Your technology may look more advanced than mine, but I have the machine god on my side." This has been a tale of the great Imperium of Man, read by the Archmagos. Thank you all for your compliance during this month of transmissions from the Mechanicus. Until next we meet, may the blessings of the Machine God be with you.